I'm Kira Jo, and today's video is going to be about the new Sydney Grace Love's Journey palette. I have the light version because it does come in both a light version and a deeper version. I did do this look using the palette. I went with a Smoky Halo Eye. So I placed my Sydney Grace order on Monday. It was the first day of the sale. I was not expecting to be able to get it this soon. Today's Friday when I'm filming, and I was amazed that it got here so quickly. I did place my order during the first, literally during the first 2 or 3 minutes that the site was live with the new products and stuff, so that's probably why mine was so fast. I also live in Utah, so shipping from Sydney Grace in California, it's not that far. I also picked up the Talia palettes, and I'm super excited to use those as single shadows. I also might go through and do a little series where I do one look with each one of those palettes. But today's focus is going to be the Love's Journey palette. I'm really excited to start using it. What I have in mind is a halo eye, and I want to make sure I go as deep and dramatic as I possibly can on the outer corner and the inner corner, because I like a lot of depth to an eye look, especially if it's a neutral eye look. So I'm going to start just by getting some of that depth built out over here. And I like my halo eyes to still have a little bit of a cat eye shape. That is my favorite shape on myself. And so far this color is looking deep enough for my liking, which is great because it is the deepest shade in the palette. I'm going in, by the way, with Fools in Love, this one right here. I generally do really enjoy the Sydney Grace formula. I think it's really good. It blends easily, it's pigmented, and they have a surprising amount of cool tone shades. Yeah, that's a lot of depth actually. That looks really nice. I know lately cool tone shadows aren't as hard to come by as they used to be back in 2015, 2016, 2017. Ever since the Natasha Denona Glam palette came out, I feel like there's been a lot more cool tones on the market. But before all of that, Sydney Grace already had some really great cool tones. And I've been very pleased with their shadows that I have. I think they're comparable to Natasha Denona. I would say probably my favorite matte formulas are from Natasha Denona and Sydney Grace. So I'm super happy to be using these today. And yeah, that is a very nice deep shade for the outer corner. I am going to go into the inner corner, and I'm just going to be really careful to only dab it right there in this area and try not to blow it out too much. So I love music, and I get songs stuck in my head sometimes and have no idea how they got there. And today it has been Avril Lavigne. I've had Skater Boy stuck in my head most of the afternoon, and I have no idea where it came from. And also this morning, I saw an ad or something where somebody's reel, I don't even remember. I was watching something in the morning when I first woke up that had a specific tune to it. And because the tune reminded me of this one song it's a Harry Potter song, but not from the movies, it's Wizard Rock. If you know what Wizard Rock is, please leave me a comment. I remember when Wizard Rock was a thing online back in the early 2000s, and it's a song by Harry and the Potters, and it's called Save Ginny Weasley from Dean Thompson. Anyway, so I had that song stuck in my head so much of the morning, and I don't know what it is. On certain days I just get the weirdest songs stuck in my head and have no idea what's going on. I'm really happy with the shape that is starting to build here. I'm just going to take a fluffy brush and start blending that a little bit with another shade. So what I'm wanting to do is mix cool tones for the depth, but then have the center of my lid. I really want to go in with Love Struck because it's kind of it's almost a peachy bronze. It's this palette is all quite neutral. I wouldn't say anything is super, super warm, but that top row is a little warmer. The bottom row is a little cooler, and the middle row kind of leans a little bit olive. I want to bounce back and forth between the top row and the bottom row. And anyway, the top row is the warmest, even though it's still fairly neutral browns. And I'm going to go into that top row to start blending this part out. So I'm going to go into Everlasting Love, and I will just start blending a little bit of that in the crease this fluffy brush. I think this palette would be really nice for wedding makeup. If you are getting married or if you're a wedding makeup artist, you do bride makeup looks, I think this palette is perfect for that. I kind of feel like that's what this was made for. And Sydney Grace really does do these neutral palettes super well. I don't do neutral looks that often. Usually I'm mixing neutrals with color, like I do a little bit of both. I hardly ever do a fully neutral look. Usually if it's mostly neutral, I'll still do a different color for the inner corner, or I'll deepen it out with a really deep green or blue or purple instead of blending it out with, or instead of deepening the outer corner with like black. But I do enjoy a good neutral look, and I like having a palette like this that will be kind of on hand as the perfect neutral look when I'm wanting that. And I probably will mix this one mostly with other palettes. Like I think this would be a great palette to mix those Temptalia palettes with, actually, because there's a lot of greens and blues and stuff in that one, and pinks and reds. Yeah, this is going to be really pretty. So on this inner corner, it's getting a little bit patchy in here. Not the fault of the shadow, it's just that I went in with the darkest shade right away. So I'm gonna add a little more of the dark shadow. I think I'm gonna use the shade Us. It's the second deepest in the cool row. And I think I'll use that so that I can keep those cool tones in this area, but just give it a softer blend. So I'm gonna just start adding that to the edges of that really dark, it looks plum in the palette, but once it's on my eyes, it really does look black. It's more or less, that's how it functions, is as a black, which I appreciate. I like a good black shade. I use black quite often because I do like I said, depth to my looks. Something else I do too, you'll notice I don't switch brushes much. I tend to use the same brush for quite a bit of the look instead of doing a different brush for each shade, because I'm trying to get the colors to blend together anyway, so it doesn't bother me if I have other shades mixing together. So even though I'm going back and forth between the darkest shade and lighter tones, I'm just fine with using the same brush. And it does look like I went a little bit out of the line that I wanted up here. I might go in and clean that up with concealer. I was hoping I wouldn't need to do that, but that was just me, I think, being hasty and or using the wrong brush, because this brush is kind of a pencil brush. It's perfect for the outer corner. It is a little big for this inner corner, inner third area. So yeah, I either need to clean this up or I need to make it all bigger. And actually, maybe that's what I'll do. I think I'm just gonna let it be, but I'm gonna let that smoke blow out a little bit more on that outer corner. I know a lot of people are afraid of really deep shades like this, but if you can get over the fear, I think it makes the biggest difference in the eyeshadow look when you use a deep tone like this. It really helps give structure to the eye look, and it helps all of those bright shades really stand out. And I think for me, that shade is what's gonna make this palette more versatile, because it is a very neutral palette. There's nothing I would consider colorful at all. If you're strictly a brown person, maybe some of these shades look more colorful to you. But as a lover of color, this palette really does just scream neutral to me. I don't see anything where I'm like, even though this row, like I would call these green leaning neutrals, and I would call these, you know, bronzy leaning neutrals, and then gray or purple leaning neutrals. But I wouldn't call any of these a green. I wouldn't call any of these a purple. I wouldn't call any of those a bronze. So I actually think that's nice. I think that it's good to have that many tones. And then, like I was saying, this having that deep of a shade helps to make this more versatile. Now I'm going back into Everlasting Love. That was kind of the beige shade at the top. I'm just gonna add a little more of that to the crease. And now I'm excited to add some shimmers, because Sydney Grace has some gorgeous shimmers. I really love their shimmer formula. And I'm using some NYX glitter glue. Honestly, it probably doesn't need it, but it's a habit for me. Most of the time I do use NYX glitter glue, no matter what formula it is. I guess I am mostly used to using it, I think, because I use so many sparkly shades. And with Sydney Grace's formula, they're definitely more foils than anything else. They do have a couple different shimmer formulas. The one that I associate with them most is their, I think they call it their pressed pigment formula. And they are amazing shimmers. There's the one I'm gonna add. This is Lovesick. Yes, so beautiful. Yeah, they light up the lid and are amazing. I really like their shimmer formula. It is a little thick, so it depends on what your preferences are, but I quite like it. Okay, and you can see they're pretty opaque as well. I'm adding it to some places where I didn't even add that glitter glue, and it is completely taking over where I did that matte. So I'm gonna deepen that again because I liked that shape that I had going. That is a stunning shimmer. And then I'll probably add another shimmer on top of it in the very center so that the center is really bright. Because that's what I prefer in a halo eye. I like the center to be very, very bright, and I like the depth to be very, very deep. Yeah, these are very easy to work with, and it's a very sophisticated formula. When I think of Sydney Grace, I do think of neutrals, soft colors, and just classiness. I just think that the kind of tones they put in their palettes are very classy. There's some nuance to the type of neutrals they use. Going back into Everlasting Love. And I'm just gonna add that to the crease a little bit more now that I've got that shimmer there. I am going to use Wistful because it is the lightest shade in the palette. I kind of think it was maybe meant to be an inner corner shade, like these. I feel like the way it's laid out, it's like these are all inner corner shades. These are starting your crease shades. These are deepening shades, and then these are the deepest for each row. And then this is like a lid shade for each. So if you wanted to go row by row, it's definitely laid out that way. Anyway, I'm going into Wistful just because it's the lightest shade I can possibly use, and I'll just see what that looks like. I might end up switching to a different shimmer. Yeah, that definitely brings some good contrast. Put it all the way up about to my brow bone. Now using an angled brush, I'm just going to go back into that deepest shade again and just make sure this area is as deep as I can go. So I'll dab it on with this, and then I'll blend a tiny bit more. But yeah, this really gives you a lot of color payoff. And now I'm going back into the shade next to the deepest shade, Us. I'm gonna just use that to help blend from there. I didn't realize that I didn't have my microphone on. And I think that'll do it for the eye look. So I will just add mascara and it'll be done. I do really think this would be the perfect neutral palette for a wedding day, for sure. I like the packaging too, it's pretty. Did you buy anything in the Sydney Grace sale? If so, I would love to hear about what you picked up in the comments. I like that Sydney Grace does their Christmas in July sale every year. It's fun having another big sale to look forward to that's not Black Friday, and to know that it comes every year. I really like that because it gets kind of overwhelming around Black Friday with so many sales going on and you don't know which ones to support because you can't possibly buy everything, and then especially because Christmas is coming up, you're buying gifts and the whole shebang. I just dotted mascara right there on my inner corner. What was I thinking? You get to see me do a very pro fix to this issue. I'm just gonna rub at it with my fingernail until it's gone. Life hack. Just kidding. The mascara is really wanting to stay there now, so I guess I'll dab a tiny bit of concealer there and fix that. BRB. I never can find the right brush very quickly. Okay, was not expecting to need concealer because I wasn't expecting to mess up the eye look in the last second I was putting on mascara. But I will grab just a little bit. I dabbed it on my hand. I really only need a tiny bit to just lighten this area just a tad. Get that mascara to go away. Hopefully I can get it to blend in okay. I'm gonna do it on the other side too, just for consistency's sake, because now this side looks a tiny bit brighter and I'd rather them match and maybe just make it look like I was trying to do a slightly brighter inner corner. So there we go. I think that fixes it. And maybe it was good that I added a little bit of lightness here anyway. In fact, I'm gonna go into Kisses. It's not the lightest shade, it's the second to lightest shade in the palette. I'll just put a tiny bit on the inner corner. Now I have concealer on my hand. I'm terrified. I'm gonna rub it on myself somehow. And this is the finished look. Okay, final thoughts on the palette. I definitely think it's easy to use. I think it's the kind of palette that if you like neutral palettes, you will love it. If you're looking for a new staple neutral palette to use as your go-to, I definitely recommend this one. All the shades I used were good quality, they went on easily, they blended easily. I didn't notice any differences between this palette and other Sydney Grace formulas that I've used. I do think they have more than one shimmer formula in here, so some of the shades, like Wistful for instance, is definitely more of a satin kind of shimmer almost, and then shades like Only You and Lovesick are going to be more like Sydney Grace's foiled formula. And I will definitely keep using this palette. I think most of the time I will be mixing it with a colored inner corner or using some of my Cleona sparkly shades that are shifty on top of it. But I think this is a great base palette and I'll definitely get a lot of use out of it. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you'll subscribe if you're interested in seeing more from me. And don't forget to let me know in the comments if you picked anything up in the Christmas in July sale. See you later.